Hello everyone, welcome to the TTT Training, and at this part we are going to introduce some presentation skills. Let's see the forward first. In order to achieve better training results, in addition to the best preparation before the training, the use of presentation skills during the training is also very important. It can help students enhance the training experience and focus their attention. So this course will cover presentation skills and other tools you can use during the training process. And we hope that after finishing this part, you can understand the presentation skills in the training process and you can learn the way to improve the atmosphere at your class. So what are the presentation skills? Let's see the figure first. In this figure, you can see that the expression of a message is consist of 7% of verbal, 38% of vocal, and 55% of visual. I think you can easily find that visual takes the most important place in the information transferring. And from here, we can know that in the training, it's very important for us to pay more attention to what the trainees can see in the class. Okay, and after knowing this, let's see the presentation skills we can use. First is about the warm-up. Before the class, the lecturers and the trainees are unfamiliar with each other. The appropriate warm-up way can mobilize the emotion of the trainees and narrow the distance between the lecturer and the trainees, except that it can pave the way for the subsequent teaching. There are many ways to warm up the field, including play relaxed or play cheerful music, play sharp-related videos, or you can chat with the students. For example, you can chat with the students about their work, about their hobbies, right, about their requirements of this training, right, anything that can make you familiar with them. The above content is suggested to be presented through a simple opening ceremony. Share the overall introduction of the training instructor, right, of you or of the other instructors in this course, and the course plan or the training time arrangement. For example, we will start at 9 a.m. and we will end at maybe 12. It's about the time arrangement. You should tell them in advance so that they can attend on time. And except that, you should share some points for attention during the training. For example, since most of the trainees are very busy, so you should set some limitations in advance. For example, if you need to make a phone call, you'd better maybe find some place outside the classroom. So in this way, will not interrupt the training. Or if you have some work to do, you should maybe tell the instructor in advance, and some other points you think that will affect the training experience. Okay, this is about the warm-up step. And next is about the eloquence. Talking is a basic way of communication between people. Lecture has higher requirements for language expression. So a good lecturer should have the ability to transfer complex content into simple words. Because especially in the network field, most of the concepts are difficult to understand. So, as an instructor, you should find a way to transfer these things into some words easy to understand. Okay, and except that, you should have the ability to make boring content vivid, the ability to express the same content in different ways for different types of students. For example, for the students, they have knowledge background. So you can directly see some professional words, or for the students that maybe it's the first time they learn the network technologies. So you should find some way to share this content to them in a maybe common way or in a simple way. Right? In order to achieve the above points, the lecturer is required to master the content of the lecture and have the clear logic of the lecture. In another word, you should have a deep understanding of what you gonna introduce in the class. For complex, abstract content, through the use of examples, analogies, drawings, lists, and other ways to help students understand. Okay. So at this part, actually, we are talking about how to make the content easier for the students to understand. Right? We have some suggestions, for example, examples, analogies, drawings. Okay, so after knowing this, let's see a case. During a training session, the topic is IP addressing, right? The IP address we use. Due to the weak foundation of the trainees, they think it's hard to understand what's the IP address. I don't know that. The number is quite difficult to remember. So do you have a good way to help them? You can think about it. Of course, as we all know that the IP address can be divided into the network part and the subnet part. So how can we help them understand what's the difference between them? Okay, we can make an example. For example, your address, right? The address of, for example, the address of me is in maybe China and Zhejiang province, and I'm in Hangzhou, right? And this kind of information you can think is a network, right? It's a network address or it's a network part in the IP address. It's a range. While about the subnet part, you can think it's the exact address. For example, you live at the first building and at the second floor and the first room. Right? It's a detailed information. So in this way, I think it can make it more easier for the students to understand what's the IP address and what's the difference between the network part and the subnet part. Okay, it's about the eloquence. And the next is about the sound. And when we talk about sound, we should pay attention to some points. First is the volume. Volume we should control and we should make sure that the last row of Chinese can hear. And we should raising the volume when asking questions and emphasizing key points. Because by raising the volume, we can get the attention of all the students. Okay, and the next is the speed of speech. And the speed of speech should be fast. We can speak fast to create interest, right? To incite the emotions. While if the speech is slow, or the slow speech speed is used to emphasize the key points and strengthen memory. Because if the speed is normal and suddenly you slow down, it can also catch their attentions, and when our attention is focused, you can share some key points, right, and to strengthen their memory. Then next is about the intonation. The intonation should be lively, with cadence and no vanishing end. Next is about the pausing. Pausing and short period of silence can get the attention of the trainee and at the same time can enhance the era. And the last point is the pronunciation. It should be as clear as possible. So about the sound, you should know that. And there is a note. If the training is online, we should test the microphone in advance to make sure that the voice is clear and the student can hear you. Okay, this is about the sound, and the next is about the expression. The lecturer's expression has a great impact on the atmosphere of the class during the training. And during the class of the lecturer should be smile, gracious, confident, encouragement, and sincerity. In addition to pay attention to their own expressions, instructors should also pay attention to the expressions of their trainees when training offline. Means that since you are communication with them, so you should know what they are thinking about, and from their expressions, you can easily find out. For example, you can find out some of them are confused, or when you ask a question, you from their expressions, you can easily find out. Okay, some of them not want to answer this question, but you can also find out that some of them are willing to answer it, or at least they know the answer, because from the expressions we can know they are confident, right? Okay, this is about the expressions. We should control our own expressions, and we should pay attention to the Chinese expressions. Okay, and next is eye contact. The eyes are the windows to the soul, right? It's an old saying. And by using their eyes, instructors can communicate with students more quickly, truly, and effectively. Different eyes can be used in different lengths. Common eyes used in the course of teaching are shown as follow. For example, look around. This is mainly about the offline training. In the classroom, you should look around the room with your eyes, and every once in a while to show your attention to each student. And next is a face up. When communication with individual students, face up to each other, show respect and convey confidence. Next is look in a direction so that all students in this direction feel noticed. Right? And the last is point guidance. To quickly observe each student one by one. It is often used to observe the expressions of students after asking questions to find out students who maybe is waiting to answer the question. Okay, and let's see. Here I have two examples. From these two examples, we can find out the eyesight is very important. Let's see it again. So what can you read from this eyesight? Actually, the first time when I see this, I feel scared, right, from this eyesight. And let's see the next one. Okay, so from the second example, we can find that she was shocked by something, right? Let's see it. Here, she was shocked, and then she recovered, right? She recovered slowly. So in both these examples, we can only see their eyes, right, without any expressions. So from the eyesight, we can easily figure out the feeling of a person, right? And I think through these two cases, you can know the importance of the eyesight. And during the training, we should use our eyesight or use the eye contact to communicate with all the students, right? And pay attention to some suggestions here. For example, look around, face up, look in a direction, and point the guidance. Okay, use this eye contact in the appropriate scenario can help you um, have a better communication with your trainees. Okay, and then next is gestures. Gestures are an important part of situation language. Using gestures can make our expressions more natural and vivid, except that can increase the appeal of lectures. And all these gestures can be divided into the three types. For example, the gestures used to express emotion, such as clapping, thumbs up. For example, as you can see in the first picture, right, it's a thumbs up, right? Choose, okay, you are good, right? Good job. So in the training, when you maybe when a trainee answers your question correctly, so you can use the thumbs up, right, to show the emotion, right? And next is the indicative gesture, used to indicate an object, such as a question session. Use gesture to invite students to answer questions, right? And just as we just mentioned, after asking a question, you should take a look or take a glance at each student and find from their expressions you can know. For example, someone is willing to answer it, and at this time you can use the indicative gesture to invite him answer the question. And pay attention that do not use your finger to point one student at any time. And the third time is a gesture used to simulate transactions, such as indicating the height of equipment. Just like what we can see at the last picture, right? You can use your gesture to maybe simulate the height of an object, or you can use your gesture to show the maybe the size of a product, right? This is about the gestures. And the next is about the blackboard writing. As a very important teaching method, blackboard writing directly affects the teaching effect, especially some points that are very difficult to understand or some contents that are very complex. We can use blackboard writing to record them. And as you can see in this figure, this is about the OSPF working process. The messages that R1 and R2 will exchange during the neighbor relationship establishment and the states in this process. So this is very complex, and there are a lot of detailed information to be remembered. And by using the blackboard writing, we can easily write them down, and we can record them on the board. So in the training, maybe the student will follow the steps and record them, so they can review after the training, right? So the use of blackboard writing can help teachers to convey information to students for a long time. Abstract concepts can be concretized and compared with multimedia materials. Blackboard writing is more flexible. For example, if you use a PowerPoint, it can also help you maybe show this information to the students, but it's fixed, right? It's impossible for you to edit the PowerPoint in the training. But for the blackboard writing, you can change it at any time you like, right? It's more flexible. But if you want to have a good blackboard writing, you should design it. You should design it in advance. You should design it in advance. So let's say how to design it. A good blackboard writing should have the following characteristics. First is a clear purpose. Blackboard writing is designed to help students understand the key content and the knowledge structure of the course. Students can understand the lecture's teaching logic through the blackboard writing, and can use a blackboard writing as a base for review after class. So the purpose of the blackboard writing must be clear. And next is through planning. In the stage of design, it is necessary to sorry. It's necessary to clarify the content, time, and the location. It's recommended to write from left to right, up to down. The right margin leaves room for flexible adjustment on the spot. This is about where to write. Right? You should follow this principle, right? From left to right, from up to down. There must be some space for the adjustment. And next is a clear organization. Blackboard writing is the knowledge that the lecturer summarizes and extracts for the students after fully understanding the content of the course. When teaching offline, it should be confirmed that students understand or record the blackboard before erasing. And next is rigorous content. The content of blackboard writing should be scientific and rigorous to avoid mistake. Because if you made mistake on the blackboard writing, and then the students will record it, or even they will copy it, so it will affect them, right, in the long term. And lastly is a presentation effect. In order to have a good presentation effect, and in addition to the layout, the writing also needs to be neat, and the color collection is reasonable. So even the color you use on the blackboard should design in advance. For example, most of the content we can use black, while for some key points we can use red, right? Just like this. Okay, this is about the blackboard writing, and the next is about the interaction. One-way information transfer, in which a lecturer indoctrinates a student with knowledge, is clearly not in keeping with the characteristics of adult learning. Because for the adults, when they learn some knowledge, firstly, this knowledge should be useful, and they should be interested, so they will learn it. So on the contrary, students take an active part in the action, freely express their own opinions, and share their own experiences, which is helpful to help students better grasp the course content. And here are some common forms of interaction in the course of teaching. For example, you can ask them some questions, and by asking questions, you can communicate with them to find out if they have mastered or not, right? Or if they have maybe some problems with this content. And the next is a group discussion. For some open topics, you can hold the group discussion, and you can divide. For example, we have 20 students, so you can divide them into 4 groups, and each group you should give them, for example, 10 minutes to discuss, and then each group should have 1 member to share their results with all the trainees. Okay, in this way, they can express their own opinions, right? And they can share their own experiences to make them feel active, right, in the training. And the last is experience and case sharing. For example, especially for some for product training, such as about the troubleshooting methods. And in your class, there are some experienced engineers, so you can invite them to share some experience about the troubleshooting or some cases they have met. Right? So here are some interaction methods, and you can use them in your class. I think it can help you improve the atmosphere in the class. Okay, and next is about the summary. Right. Summary in the course of teaching can summarize the key content of the last section, appropriate training blackboards for students to deepen their impression. In addition, it can also play the role of connecting the preceding and the following, introduce the content of next section. The chapter summary at the end of the lecture can be used to summarize the course. Right? This is a main point. Start and finish, corresponding to the initial introduction of the course to summarize the content of this chapter. And next is assessment of learning results. It can be summarized by asking questions. For example, at the end of the training, you can see that, okay, after finishing this part, I will ask you some questions, and in this way, we can make a summary together. Right? This is also a method. So the lecturer will raise questions related to the key content according to the course outline, and the students will answer them. Learning results will be evaluated at one time. Okay? And the last is answer questions. In the conclusion stage of this chapter, students' questions will be answered to avoid students ending the training with questions. So this is another method of summary. For example, at the end of the training, you can ask, okay, we have finished the content today, and do you have any questions? So at this time, students will ask you some questions, and you can maybe answer these questions. Okay, this is about some presentation skills during the training. Thanks.